Hello, everybody, and welcome to a special edition of the Salt and Light Hour. I'm your host, Deacon Pedro. Today, we're going to be playing some of our favorite conversations from the spring of 2024. First, we bring you an excerpt of my featured conversation with Tyler Thompson and Ryan Swanson. Who are they, you wonder? Well, they are two of the three writers and producers of the popular TV series on the life of Christ, The Chosen. So you don't want to miss that conversation. After that, we reconnect with singer-songwriter Marie Miller, who released a new album this year. You also don't want to miss that conversation. In our second half hour, we learn all about the new master's program on gender and women's studies at the University of St. Thomas in Houston. It's the first graduate program on gender and women's studies that is Catholic. So you don't want to miss that conversation either. And at the end of the program, we reconnect with singer-songwriter Sarah Kroger, who also released a new album this year. And so you also don't want to miss that conversation. So sit back and relax and enjoy the program. We begin now with a featured conversation with the writers of The Chosen. The Chosen is the first ever multi-season TV series on the life of Christ. This groundbreaking historical drama tells the story through the eyes of those who knew Jesus, those chosen by him, sharing an authentic and intimate look at his life and teachings. The series is the largest fan-supported crowdfunded project of all time, and in the first 3 seasons garnered over 500 million episode views worldwide. It has been said that the show's popularity is due to the fact that it shows a deeply human Jesus, although it shows a fully divine Jesus as well. But what's true is that the greatest story ever told has never been told this way, and the real genius behind the series is the writing. Recently, before the release of the 4th season, I had the chance to speak with 2 of the writers of the series who work with series creator Dallas Jenkins, Ryan Swanson and Tyler Thompson. Here is a portion of that conversation. We spoke about the writing process and about creating some of the characters like Eden, Gaius, Nathaniel, and Matthew. Ryan and Tyler, it's so good to meet you. How did you start thinking, because I imagine you've mapped out the whole season, all the seasons, which are the stories that we're going to tell and which characters do we have to develop or invent?
Yeah, I mean, for each season, we'll identify what swath of the Gospels, what from here to here we want to cover, and then we look at what are the events within that. As you well know, not all the Gospels necessarily agree on certain chronology, so sometimes things fall outside of that zone, but we'll decide, hey, we'll pull that in, or there's 2 mass feedings, one 4,000, one 5, why don't we just combine them into one? So things like that. So once we have all that in there, that helps us determine, okay, which characters are we going to need to investigate from their point of view or even invent, we talk about, say, the character of Atticus, who is, kind of a cipher, a way for the Roman Empire to explore what's going on, or someone like Shmuel, who's kind of an aggregate for the religious leaders or something like that. Sometimes we have to push a bunch of perspectives into a single character so that the audience just has one person to follow.
Like some characters like Eden, she's a main, I mean, she's almost like the protagonist in some ways.
Yeah.
I mean, she's not made up, but we know Peter was married. Mm-hmm. But that's a whole other story going on there. Tell me about Eden. How did you come up with Eden, or why?
But I mean, that's you've just distilled down our organizing principle, which is to find a passage in the Bible that suggests more.
Right.
So we know Peter's
because he had a mother-in-law
was healed. And so what does that mean? It means he had a wife, and it means that his wife was, and if the ministry largely took place early days at his house, this is somebody who would have had to contend with meetings. What could she have been like? Who could have put up with Peter? That's something as we move through the gospel, we try to figure out, right? And so once we've taken that one piece of information that Peter's mother-in-law was healed, we then start to extrapolate backwards, and we connect the dots. We don't want our characters to ever come off as plot bots or just
exactly,
moving from place to place with no motivation, no fears, no desires of their own. And so, Eden is a great example of a character we know had to exist, but, who could she have been from the given facts that we have?
When you identify, let's say, those gospel moments that you'd like to highlight, do you encounter, and I imagine you do, because I think I do and everybody does, things that just don't make sense or that don't quite sit right, that help you? And I'm thinking about, Simon having gambled away his house and his business and everything, and then all of a sudden that justifies the miraculous cat. Like, it makes sense. How did you come up with that, like that idea, or others like that one?
It's often a process of working backward from something that's already there in the text. So when Jesus says, let down your nets for another catch, and he says, Master, we toiled all night. Yeah. Full stop. Hold on. Why all night? What could cause
that
someone?
Would not have been normal?
No, and I mean, who does that? And so, you can tell from other suggestions in the text, there's a bit of desperation going on with him. And so, because he says, you don't know the things I've done. There's context clues, and then we can kind of work backward from that and kind of not invent, but imagine, explore, infer what could plausibly have happened. So that's kind of how we got to something like that.
Yeah, or Nathaniel is it Nathaniel under the tree?
Yeah, under the tree.
That Jesus says to him, like, I saw you under the tree, and that means nothing to most people who read it.
Right.
But then all of a sudden, the chosen, it made perfect sense.
Yeah.
Was that a similar?
Yeah, that is a similar moment, because we know so little about Nathaniel. Why among all the moments of Nathaniel's life, why would he have suggested, I knew you in that moment? And so we started to, work backwards, and we work as a writing team. So with Dallas Jenkins, the three of us were sitting in a basement, and we were thinking about the character of Nathaniel. And Dallas had a personal story that he was drawing on to that moment. What was it? What was a moment for me where it would be reassuring to hear Jesus tell me I was there with you through that? And he drew on the moment of his own career when he had a feature film come out that didn't perform. And, he was shortly thereafter, God put it on his heart to just continue to bring in loaves and fish, that he never would have any control over the outcome. But in that moment, that he was Nathaniel, as we saw him portrayed in The Chosen. And so we thought that could be a moment when all the noise, all of the, when you take 12 men whose lives would have centered around Torah and around their faith, and the preachers would have come out of the woodwork around this time of Roman occupation, for one to stand out, for a man to say, hey, I know that you're somebody who tells no lies, and I saw you under the fig tree. That those moments would have had to connect deeply to something that had real meaning, and in this case, we chose a moment of despair for Nathaniel.
Do you find, and again, I don't think this is a contradiction, but sometimes Gospels will give you two completely different points of view. And I can think of the centurion. He's got a son in one Gospel, he's got a servant or a slave in the other. You were able to make sense of that. Tell me about that process.
Yeah, because probably both are true in some way, and so we found a way to make both true. I also, there's no use in creating division or controversy over something that in our minds, like, the message of that story isn't so much about the relationship, it's about that person's faith. And so we try to keep the main thing, and if there's a detail that various traditions or gospels kind of quibble over, we try to never center those, because that's not the point. This isn't a theological treatise, it's not an investigation. We're not doing that. There's plenty of people doing that, they're very good at it. We're just trying to tell an entertaining story on television that will, help people relate to the stories of the people who encountered Christ. And so what the nature of the relationship is not that important to us. It's more about the faith of that centurion.
But it also, you didn't just tell the story of Gaius at that one moment. Gaius, we met him, 2 seasons before.
Yeah.
Did you know that that's where you were ending, or we just needed a centurion because that's an interesting character to? You already said that not to forward the story, the plot.
Yeah.
But did you think of Gaius because we needed a centurion whose son had to be healed?
There was a lot of work that went into Gaius, and introducing.
He's one of my favorite characters, actually.
Yeah, and that is the nature of ensemble TV too, is that we've already got a cast of 12 characters who are following the life very closely of the famous 13th, and then we've got 3 women disciples, and then we've got 2 Pharisees whom we've gotten to know very well. And so you start to get to 20 and 25 characters. Not only is there something in efficiency in introducing the life of Gaius, but it also goes very closely to, it marries motif with function, because our idea that Jesus connected deeply with the people around him means that Gaius wouldn't have just been a bystander or throwaway. If Gaius was present for the miracles, signs, and wonders that Jesus' ministry gave the world, he would have been impacted. So why not go on a journey with him? His relationship with Matthew is something that we see continuing to evolve. His work with Simon last season was foundational in that, what you're talking about now, right? Because in the text it also says that the disciples went to Jesus and said, "This man helped rebuild our temple. He's a good man." Well, where would that have come from if not from rebuilding the cistern with Peter? And in the process of doing that, we also got to do quite a bit of heavy lifting with Simon's Ark last season. Exactly. So, the nature of this ensemble television has us reusing characters, but, we've put forethought into where each of these guys is going. And the stuff that you're seeing now with Gaius, with his son, that Tyler talked about, mending two gospels with different details, not different takes, different details.
And you don't have to tell us now, but I imagine that he could be the centurion at the foot of the cross who says, "This truly was the Son of God." Maybe.
Got options.
I don't know. I do, but it would make sense because we've seen his journey. And like you said, there's no way that he would not have been impacted in some way.
That's right.
By Jesus, if that's where he was. Tell me about Matthew and how or why he developed the way he developed as someone with autism or on the spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Well, there were clues early on, the fastidious attention to detail, the kind of obsession with numbers and genealogies and details that may seem not the most entertaining, but that would be relevant to someone maybe neuroatypical in one way or another. Dallas has some personal experience with autism within his own family, and so he has a keen eye for some of those things. But neurodivergence or neuroatypical people have been with us forever, and so it doesn't matter, what label you put on it. Like, we did want to make sure that all kinds of people see themselves represented in the show that maybe often don't. So many of similar types of shows revolving around Jesus and the disciples have a bunch of stock characters. It's like Peter and Judas, and then a bunch of flat, similar people. And we thought they should each have a unique perspective. And Matthew, more and more episode by episode, as deeper we got into the character, it just made so much sense. And it helps the audience too to have someone with a lot of questions and someone who will say what other people are thinking.
Right.
That helps us, that gives us space to say the things we're thinking.
Would you have started writing Matthew before you realized maybe we need to explore this a little, or you already knew?
It was in the first discussion, actually. Yeah.
Interesting. That was a portion of a conversation I had with Ryan Swanson and Tyler Thompson. They are two of the writers of the hit TV series The Chosen. I spoke with them earlier this month. You can now watch the 4th season of The Chosen on the Chosen app and on their website, thechosen.tv. Here now is our featured artist of the week, Marie Miller, with Woman from her new album, The Way of Love.
Went to the well in the middle of the day to hide my shame and steal away. Saw him there at the water's edge. My heart so thirsty and so dry. He spoke my name and he sang my life. He said, "Woman, oh woman, don't you know you're loved? Woman, oh woman, you're the heart of God. Oh woman."
That was Marie Miller with Woman from her new album, The Way of Love. Marie Miller has been on our program several times, the last time in March 2022, and it's no secret that we love her folky, country, and pop blend of music, especially with her mandolin. In the last 10 or so years, Marie has released 5 albums, and most recently, one that she was working on the last time that we spoke, The Way of Love. And so to tell us more, I am now joined by Marie Miller. Marie, welcome back to the Sultanite Hour.
It's great to be here with you again.
It is. It's good to see you. So, The Way of Love, it sounds like a silly question, but why love?
No, it's a beautiful question. So the Way of Love is inspired by Saint Therese. So she has a quote that she says, "How sweet is the way of love." And she believed that everything that we do should be for love, towards love. And that was what many people know as her little way, right?
Mm-hmm.
Every little thing she did was for love. And when I read that quote, I was like, that's great. I want that to be a song, how sweet is the way of love.
Mm-hmm.
And so, so the way of love was that. Yeah. And it seems simple. And we define love in this world so many different ways, but so maybe just like, I thought it'd be good to bring it back to the basics.
So is the whole album inspired by Saint Therese, her little way?
She's the patroness of this project, and I'm doing live events, musical presentations is what I'm calling them, and it's my music and Saint Therese's teachings and quotes. And so
beautiful.
Yeah, so I'm really excited.
Now, I presume that obviously you already knew about Saint Therese, but did you kind of have to do a deeper dive? Like, was this something that you were, or do you feel like you're discovering her anew?
Oh, totally. And I'm so blessed to have my PhD candidate sister living near me. And so
that's great.
So I learned a lot about her, but she did a ton of research on Therese. And so as I was working on this presentation, she was able to find, maybe some quotes that people didn't know, things about Therese. And so it was very exciting. But yes, I love it because I've known about her my whole life, but this is just so good for me to get to know her in a special way.
Okay, so I did not know that. I didn't know that it was inspired by Saint Therese. So I'm a little intrigued by Take, Lord, Receive, which is classic Saint Ignatius, but also The Woman at the Well. Can you tell us about those two?
Yeah, so I think that Take, Lord, Receive is just the most beautiful prayer. It's my favorite prayer.
Yes.
And I mean, I connected with Saint Therese because she believed that total surrender to God was the only way to his divine will. And I wonder if she ever prayed that prayer. Right? She might have.
Yeah.
That was her philosophy, like everything. You give everything up, the smallest things, the biggest things. And then the woman at the well, which is my favorite character in scripture, I think. It's my favorite encounter. Hey, I love that. See, we jive. This is great.
Sorry. I mean, I don't know what you're going to say, but yeah, absolutely. The woman at the well, it's like every broken, longing, yearning soul that Jesus just gets to the point. It's like to your heart. And like, I find it so comforting. But anyway, I shouldn't be answering. You should be answering.
No, I agree totally. So the woman at the well, I love her so much. And I didn't know this, but I love the Missionaries of Charity. And above every one of their chapels, it says, "I thirst," right?
Yes.
So Jesus on the cross says, "I thirst for us, for our souls." But in the encounter at the woman at the well, Jesus says to her, "Give me a drink." And this is so profound because what he's saying is that you have something that I want, that that this is an exchange. And Saint Therese had a great devotion to Jesus and his thirst for us.
Okay.
And so actually much of Mother Teresa's devotion to the Lord and his thirst, she got from Saint Therese.
Really? I didn't know that. Wow.
So it's cool. So, and actually Saint Therese wrote a beautiful poem about the thirst for God's thirst for us, which is called "I Thirst." And so she's just everywhere. She's connected.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's profound. Yeah, and the idea that we have anything to offer Christ to quench his thirst is so crazy and humbling. Did you set out to write this as an album, or did you set out to write it as a musical presentation?
Mm. Both, because I was performing at a lot of Catholic events, but I had been doing folk pop music,
Yeah,
right? So
yeah,
I've always loved connecting with you over the years and other Catholic outlets with my folk music, but it was kind of the Catholicism was in there, but it was you had to kind of look for it.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so I wanted to make music that was just for Jesus and totally obviously, for him. And to do these presentations, because yeah, I just kind of was tired of singing about myself. I'm like, I want to sing about something a little bigger than me. Um, and yeah, so this project, and it's only 5 songs,
Hmm.
but they're very important in the live events. They're kind of the main music for the live events.
I was going to ask you, but you kind of answered already. Would you say that then that's the one thing that's different about this album, that it's very, very obviously a Catholic album in the way your other music hasn't been?
Yes, so it is, and I mean, the Saint Therese is the main theme for the first song. The second song is called "Among These Rocks," which is about Our Lady,
Yeah.
as Saint
Mm.
Ignatius' Prayer, and um, "Sweet Company" is about the Eucharist. So yeah, I mean, it's just, and I didn't set out to say like I'm going to write a Catholic album. I said I want to write about who I love and
Mm.
what I love, and as I've gotten older, just the Lord has like called me closer to himself. And so this came very natural to me to write about him in the Eucharist, to write about Our Lady, to write about Saint Therese.
Yeah, which makes sense. It's interesting how you're obviously always writing about where you are in your life. So it makes sense that the older we get, the more profound our writing gets, hopefully for most of us. But um, to see that maybe you needed to get through the previous writing, all the other wonderful music that you've written to get to this point, that maybe do you feel like maybe you're being called to something a little more specific with your ministry or your music?
I definitely do. I really do. I have loved playing folk festivals. I've called it holy leisure. That's what I've tried to create
Yeah.
for the world, a time of rest where they could listen to music and just relax. And that's kind of
Hmm.
the way that I've written music. But I do not feel called to that anymore. I feel like this album will be the beginning of probably the rest of my music, in the sense that I'm going to talk about um, heavy things, but transcendent things that hopefully
Hmm.
will lift people out of the world, and their broken hearts. That I have, the only thing that is going to save us is the Lord. So why beat around the bush?
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't think, and don't take this the wrong way, the sound hasn't changed. Like it's still very classic Marie Miller. Um, and I think that that's also speaks, people might not be listening to the lyrics, or although I think that we do, even if we're not paying attention, but you're speaking, it's a much deeper message because of how the music supports what you're saying with the words.
Yeah.
Um, are you already then working on the next project?
I would love to. I would love to. I need to get funds for that.
Yeah, right.
Artistically, yes. Financially, no. But no, I mean, it's so interesting that you said this sounds like me, because I worked with, so kind of the success that I've had, which has been a great gift. So I've been able to perform for full time. It's the
Hmm.
only thing I do. Were 2 songs, "You're Not Alone" and "6'2", that were released
Yeah,
about 10 years ago, which you know.
yeah.
Thank you for playing those. And the engineer, Joe Williams, was the producer so the guy that engineered "6'2" and "You're Not Alone" uh, produced "The Way of Love," the whole
Okay.
album.
Yeah.
And then Paul Mabry, who is produced Lauren Daigle and is kind of a big wig now, he produced "You're Not Alone" and "6'2".
Uh-huh.
So he played drums on all of it. And so was a return in so many ways to that beginning. So it's kind of cool that you said that, because you're
Yeah.
right. It's
Interesting.
profoundly the same.
Yeah. 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 Much deeper, much more profound, a much deeper Marie Miller in a different place in her life, but at the same time, coming back to your roots. That's so beautiful, Marie. And I do hope that you get the financing. So we're going to make sure a lot of people are listening and downloading music and going to all these musical presentations so they can support your ministry, so that we can get some more wonderful music from you. It's always good to chat with you, Marie.
Thank you. So good to talk to you. Thank you so much for everything.
You too. God bless. You can learn more about Marie Miller and download The Way of Love at her website, mariemillermusic.com, and also on all music streaming platforms. And you can also find Marie Miller on your social media. Here now to take us out is Marie Miller with The Way of Love from her new album of the same name.
The roads these feet have seen, miles and miles of wandering, searching for glory and praise for the sound of my name, hoping that would stop the ache. The places I have been to know, to find out who I am, searching for more affirmation to placate my shame, thinking that would make things change. You pointed me down a different road, the one I was always made to know. How sweet is the way of love, how kind is its path. I chose this road like a child, and I'm never turning.
We're listening to Marie Miller with the title track of her album, The Way of Love, on this special summer edition of the Salt and Light Hour. I'm Deacon Pedro. Check out our website at slmedia.org/podcast. Welcome to the Salt and Light Hour Part 2. I'm Deacon Pedro. I think it's safe to say that there is much confusion and division when it comes to gender, perhaps because it is one of the most fundamental aspects of our human life, because it deals with what it means to be a man or a woman. Because the answer to all this confusion lies in our Catholic faith. The University of St. Thomas in Houston is launching the very first and only Masters of Arts in Catholic Women's and Gender Studies in the world, offered through their Nesty Center for Faith and Culture. This postgraduate program will offer the riches of Catholic tradition and an authentically Catholic philosophy and theology of the human person. To tell us more, we are now joined by Program Coordinator for the Nesty Center for Faith and Culture, Leah Jacobson. Leah, welcome to the Salt and Light Hour. It's good to meet you.
Thank you so much for having me on. I'm excited to be here.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that there's already a graduate certificate in sexuality and gender. Why do we need another program on gender studies or women's studies?
Well, we actually launched the Sexuality and Gender Graduate Certificate at the University of St. Thomas earlier this year.
Okay.
Knowing that it was going to be the precursor kind of sampler platter of a full master's program.
Okay. So it's part of the it's part of the full offerings that you're going to tell us a little bit more, because you didn't quite answer my question. So why do we need a Catholic women's and genders program or a master's?
Yeah, no, it's a fair question. I think a lot of people hear women and gender studies and they maybe think of the programs that they've seen at secular universities, or maybe they automatically kind of revert their thinking to, gender, identity. And that's exactly why we need this program, is because there's a lot of cultural confusion right now on what it means to be a man, what it means to be a woman, how God created us in his image and likeness, and the need for this particular program coming from a Catholic University of Faithful Newman Guide School is that all of the other programs that exist currently lack a Christian anthropology, meaning they don't start from the basic understanding that God created the man and woman in his image and likeness for a reason. and that it wasn't a mistake, that this is not something that is arbitrary,
Mm-hmm.
that is sort of an accidental aligning of particles in the cosmos that just created a person the way they are. No, this was a very thoughtful, intentional creation from God. And that's
Mm-hmm.
where this program begins and makes it, quite frankly, one of a kind. It's the only one that begins with a Christian anthropology and metaphysical understanding of the human person.
Yeah, and in the context of that sort of Catholic liberal arts tradition, why women? Why not just gender studies? Why women's and gender studies? I dare I say, why not men's studies? I guess that's included in gender studies, right?
I think that's a very good question. It's a fair question. If we look at the history of, how we came to this place that we're at right now culturally, the gender movement, the gender ideology, identity movement came out of the women's movement. It really began to
Okay.
percolate in the second wave of the second wave of the feminist movement, and was solidified. This is the ideology of the third wave of feminism. The third wave of the feminist movement
Okay.
is an ideology of gender and equality and sex roles and stereotypes. That's the entire purpose of the third wave of the feminist movement. So this has always been rooted in the women's movement. And
Okay.
this is kind of a roll back, a stop and walk this backwards and talk about, are we simply stereotypes, masculine, feminine?
Uh-huh.
Is there more to the archetype of man and woman versus the stereotype? And these are the questions that have to be asked.
Okay, that makes sense. So for people who register in the program, people who are doing the masters, what kind of topics are covered? You made me think that you're probably covering a little bit of the history of the movement as well. So what kinds of things would people be learning?
Yeah, the master's program is broken up into three main segments or units.
Okay.
The first is actually Catholic feminism, and this is where we talk about the
Okay.
history of the women's movement. It starts with that anthropology course on the human person, body, and soul, and just how God made us.
Uh-huh.
That's the prerequisite course for every student coming into the program, that they have an understanding of Christian anthropology. And then we do go into the history of sex and gender, and we talk
Uh-huh.
about the movement and the evolution of our understanding. And then I love this final course in that first unit. It's Catholic thought and feminism. And it's looking at female thinkers in the church. It's looking at, some female saints. You got
Mm-hmm.
Hildegard of Bingen and
Mm.
Edith Stein and Catherine of Siena and Therese of Lisieux and Mother Teresa and their theories of what it means to be a woman in the church. So
Yeah, okay.
that's that first unit. And then it moves into a women's health and wellness unit. And this
All
is
right.
really the biological grounding in a female body.
Mm-hmm.
What does it mean to live in a female body? What are the implications of our fertility?
Mm.
How do we cooperate with God's design of our body? So,
Mm-hmm.
and then it looks at the medical ethics of women's health care and recognizes that a lot of the most controversial issues that we deal with as Catholics are rooted in a flawed definition of women's health care. We
Mm-hmm.
call it healthy, but it's really, truly destructive. And that women's health and wellness unit then moves into the third unit of the MA program, which is a gender and family policy unit. So we go from
Oh.
Catholic feminism to women's health and wellness to gender and family policy. And this is where the rubber hits the road. What do policies look like
Mm-hmm.
that support, men, women, marriage, family? What do the effects of transgender policies, things like this, sexuality,
Mm-hmm.
identity politics, what are the effects on institutions, on our society, on culture? And we're looking a lot at the empirical data, the science and the social
Mm-hmm.
science of sexuality and gender and how it's affecting human flourishing.
Wow, that sounds amazing, and it sounds very different than what you'd find in a secular university. So just to clarify, so can people just maybe do one unit and get a certificate if so that's the way it's designed?
Yes, you nailed it. That's exactly how we designed it, because we recognize that there's going to be professionals,
Mm-hmm.
maybe healthcare professionals, nurses, doctors that just want that health and wellness certificate. They just want to really understand that issue deeply. So
Right.
they can come for those 12 credits, get the certificate in women's health and wellness, and maybe they'll decide they want to continue on and complete the full master's, and all of those credits count towards the full master's.
Okay, excellent. And you don't have to be in Houston to do it, right?
No, the entire program is done online, except for the
Okay.
very final capstone symposium is a 5-day gathering in person in Houston. But the rest of the program is online.
Okay. Can I just say, as someone who spent quite a lot of time, not as a student, but at the University of St. Thomas in Houston. It's well worth going to Houston for those at least 5 days. So I'm glad that you made that part of the program. I know that you have lots of faculty, lots of experts that are involved in the program. I know Abigail Favale, she's been a guest on this program, and she's wonderful. So I know she's also, I guess she's one of the faculty that are going to be involved. Are there any others that you can mention?
Yeah, Dr. Favale is one of our guest lecturers.
Okay.
She's tied down at Notre Dame. So
Right.
she will come in to do just a guest lecture. But our faculty actually are instructors of record. We've got Erica Bacchiacci, who is just incredible in these areas of history on sex and gender.
Uh-huh.
Dr. Pia De Salini, she's doing our Catholic thought and feminism. Again, another incredible thought leader, theologian.
Uh-huh.
Dr. Marguerite Duane, who's actually a medical doctor, an MD, teaching on the science of fertility in the women's health section.
Wonderful.
Dr. Rachel Coleman is doing our medical ethics. So a lot of just really smart thought leaders. Dr. Amy Hamilton, the science and social science. Some amazing thought leaders in these areas that we're bringing in. And then we're inviting in a lot of guest lecturers. There's going to be people just popping in for a lecture or two that are truly the experts internationally on these issues. So we're just thrilled by the level of our instructors and guest lecturers.
Yeah, and I'm excited by that one word you said, international, because it sounds like you're bringing all the best from all over for this one-of-a-kind program. Is there anything else that people need to know, Leah, that we haven't spoken about?
We're starting this fall,
Okay.
2024, with our very first cohort of the MA program, the master's, as well as all of the certificate programs. So if people are interested, we would encourage them to get an application in quickly. We are still accepting students, and we will
Okay.
be, through the month of July. So we really encourage people to apply.
Absolutely. This is fascinating. So Leah, thank you for the work that you're doing and for being part of this and for letting us know about it today.
Thank you so much for having me.
You can learn more about the Masters in Catholic Women's and Gender Studies at the University of St. Thomas and the Nesty Center for Faith and Culture at catholicgenderstudies.com. Super easy, catholicgenderstudies.com, and that's going to redirect you to the University of St. Thomas page where you can register. And if you want to listen to this conversation again, come to our website, slmedia.org. Here now is Sarah Kroger with the title track of her new album, A New Reality.
When life feels mundane, every day looks the same. The world is lost its shimmer and its shine. When colors turn to gray, abundance turns to just okay. When you forget the miracle of life, be a witness to wonder. Let it pull you right under the surface of what your eyes can see, and into a new reality where it's wilder and it's wider. Still you're grounded. Reality, can you taste it? Can you feel it? You're surrounded. The kingdom's here and now, so where you step is holy ground. The Spirit's singing everywhere you go. Be a witness to wonder. Let it pull you right under the surface of what your eyes can see, and into a new reality where it's wilder and it's wider. Still you're grounded.
That was Sarah Kroger with A New Reality from her new album of the same name. Sarah Kroger is no stranger to our Salt and Light Hour listeners. She's been on the program many, many times, and she shouldn't be a stranger to anyone who is listening to contemporary Catholic music or attending Catholic events, as she is one of the most popular and sought-out Catholic worship leaders in the English-speaking world. The last time we spoke with Sarah was in December for our Christmas episode, when we featured her new Christmas album, Christmas Lights. And now Sarah already has a new album, A New Reality, and so I am super happy to welcome Sarah Kroger back to the program. Sarah,
I'm back.
welcome. It's so good. And yeah, A New Reality. I guess that's the first question, because yeah, why? Where did that title come from?
Where did that title come from? That's a good
I mean, I know
question.
there's a song, like there's a track, but I don't know. I never know if
There is. Yeah. Yeah, there is a track. And I mean, when I first started writing this album, I had no idea what it was going to be called. For the longest time, I thought it was going to be called Wonder, because I was walking through just a reawakened, like a season where the way that I was thinking about God and wonder, childlike awe and wonder of God was just reawakened.
Mm-hmm.
It was, let me set the stage. It was like post-COVID, all of our events, my husband and I do ministry full-time, so all of our events in the span of one day just got wiped out like that. And so I found myself having to find other ways to remain sane. And the way that we did that was by taking walks in our neighborhood. And we found ourselves literally over a year walking through the seasons, and it was so impactful. And I'm so grateful actually for that time now, looking back on it, because it's such a simple thing to spend time in nature, right? It's free for anyone to do, but it had such an impact on me, and it reawakened, like I'm saying, it reawakened my knowledge of like God is sustaining and providing life at every moment of every day without us even thinking about it. He is more real and more alive than anything else. But then on the flip side of that coin, I found myself walking through the hardest few years of my faith I've ever had, a real season of wondering. So wonder on one side and wondering on the other, and wrestling with questions and doubt, and for the first time having a really hard time finding God in the midst of it, and feeling his presence. I had never ever experienced that in my faith. I just, for whatever reason, the gift of faith had always come easy, and in the last couple of years it hasn't. And so walking through that at the same time that I was walking through this like reawakened childlike wonder at the presence of God and all of the things in between, this album kind of is a mix of all those things. And in and of itself, I find myself in a new reality, of a different kind of faith journey than I've ever been on. But at the same time, like a new reality could also stand for just our relationship with God. Every day with Jesus is a new reality, you know? So just surrendering to that and recognizing that we're not the ones that make it a new reality. God is the one that makes it. And
you're
learning how to trust him in the midst of that, whether it's good or bad.
No, I know exactly what you mean, because my wife and I also survived COVID by going through walks around the neighborhood. And I hope that you and your husband are still doing it, because we are. It's like we're going for a walk, and
leave everything behind, just go.
And you made me think of the seeing everything every day with new eyes. It's like, wow, I never noticed that neighbor had that gate or whatever, so there's a new reality there as well.
Right.
And you didn't say this, but I think that you were kind of implying it. And if you weren't, then I think it's there in your heart. You just maybe needed me to tell you that you needed to have gone through those daily neighborhood walks, because God knew that you were going to go through a little bit of a crisis. And so he was taking you already on this journey that was going to ground you in a way. So
seriously,
right?
Seriously, that resonates so deeply. And it's interesting because I feel like I didn't have that realization until literally last week when I was talking to my husband about it. And I realized, oh my gosh, I needed that season of wonder to get me through my wondering. Like literally I needed that, and God knew it. And continues to, give me peace in the midst of this dark. I don't even like calling it a season, honestly, because faith is a journey with good days and bad. And sometimes it's a season that you're walking through, but sometimes it's just like, this is just the path. This is just the journey. And so trying
ups and
to,
downs.
just trying to like
Peaks
surrender to that more than anything else.
Yeah. So did the song come first?
Yeah, the song came first. A New Reality was one of the first songs that I wrote for this album when it was still called Wonder in my head.
Okay.
And then I wrote 70 plus songs for this record.
Oh my gosh.
And had to whittle it down to 10. There's going to be an extra 4 coming out in the next couple of months for a deluxe edition, but had to whittle it down. And then I was like, so I wrote A New Reality before I was struggling with my faith. And so it just kind of was this full circle moment once we realized, what is this album going to be called? I'm searching for something with my A&R at my label and my manager and all these people like working on it with me. And I just landed on A New Reality. I was like, that's exactly what this experience has led me to, is that song and that idea. And so, yeah.
Okay. So when you sent me the album art or some of the images, which used to be a thing, there used to be like an actual album and art. There's that one image. I don't even know how to describe it, but you're on the beach with the cell phone behind you.
The mirror.
It's a mirror.
It's a mirror.
But I saw that image and I was like, oh, I get it. A new reality. Like, it was just kind of like, tell me about that process, because to try to match images or visuals to music, I don't think it's necessary, but it's interesting. Yeah.
Well, the creative team that worked on this project are just honestly top notch. They're just the dream team. We went out to Big Sur, and because I have always loved the ocean, I grew up at the ocean, so I knew that I wanted it to be at an ocean for somewhere. And Big Sur is just the most epic place, one of the most epic places in the US, in my opinion.
Okay.
Mountains and beach and the redwoods. It's just like creation on steroids. So we went there for it, and I had this idea, like it would be really cool to do something Narnia-esque around A New Reality.
That's exactly it.
Yeah. So we experimented with a mirror on the beach and in all these different locations to kind of take photos in the mirror, and then maybe it would be behind me, and then what would it look like? And so we edited it to make it look like I'm stepping out of another scene into the scene with the ocean. And the whole idea around that is like, for me, beauty is like a portal to the divine. That's what it feels like. When I'm in beauty, I feel like I'm entering through another, like behind the veil, if you will. Like it's like I said earlier, like it just kind of awakens or opens my eyes to a reality that's alive all around me at all times. I'm just not paying attention to it. You know what I mean? So
I do.
Yeah, beauty has this way of like tapping us on the shoulder and being like, there's more going on here than meets the eye.
That's profound. I mean, it's profound, and I know that you're not the first one to say that the beauty is a portal to the divine. I'm sure some saint said that.
I'm sure someone did,
because it's so profound. So would you say that the rest of the songs, like, how did you whittle it down to 10 from 70? Did you find like these are the songs that kind of show my journey better, or that point to a new reality better?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely songs that are still in my Dropbox that didn't make it on this record that I probably will release at some point, and some that were just meant for that moment. That's kind of a hard thing about being a songwriter sometimes, is you got to surrender that.
Yeah.
Because all of your songs that you write, like in the moment, all of the songs are like, that is the most amazing song ever. I can't wait to share that with everybody. And then when you start building an album, some fit more than others, So
of course.
Just surrendering to that process. So we'll see what happens with those songs. But yeah, this collection, I feel like there's corporate worship songs, so songs that are meant to be sung in church.
Okay.
And then there's songs that are more like artistic, like A New Reality, or the song Human, or like more contemplative and more artistic from a sonic standpoint. And it's kind of both and, because I kind of love both, creating both. And so I was like, why can't both be on an album? Both are kind of like prayer and worship, and we don't have to put it into a category. It can just all live on the same project and just be a prayer experience for anyone who listens to it. So yeah,
it is that. Okay, so we're going to end the show with Still Yours, which I think is so far my favorite one. So tell us, set it up for us. Tell us a little bit about it, and so that we can listen to it.
Yeah, this song really, it speaks to my relationship with God, and anyone's relationship with God, really, which is just that. It's a relationship. Like any relationship, you have good days and bad days. You have days where you feel it and days when you don't. And the older I get, the more that I realize that God is a mystery, and there are questions this side of heaven that I will never get answers to. But I have to believe that, like Romans 8 says, there's nothing that can separate me from the love of God, even my own intellect and mind, and even my own doubts, that I will always be his and he will always be mine. So that's what this song is about. Still Yours.
So good. Sarah, thank you. Thank you so much. I mean, yeah. So if you have 60 songs that didn't make it to this album, so definitely we can tell our listeners that we are guaranteed to have Sarah Kroger back on the show
within the next year. No, I'm just kidding.
But yeah. We promise. Who knows? Maybe in the fall. I don't know. But it always a pleasure to have you and to see you, to be with you, to share a little bit with you, and so just keep writing.
Same. Thanks so much, friend. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome. God bless.
You too.
You can learn all about Sarah Kroger and get her music, including her new album, A New Reality, at sarahkroger.com. And it's Kroger with a K, Kroger, sarahkroger.com, and wherever you stream your music. And to listen to this interview again or to hear the rest of the program, go to slmedia.org/podcast. Here now to take us out is that song that Sarah was telling us about, Still Yours, from Sarah Kroger's new album, A New Reality.
Sometimes I wonder where the wonder is gone. Sometimes I wish I felt the joy in my song I once did, way back when. I want to grow up with a faith like a child and learn to fear and run back into the wild. Oh, Father, help me remember.
We're listening to Sarah Kroger with Still Yours from her album, A New Reality. And that concludes this special edition of the Salt and Light Hour. Remember that we're specifically looking for your feedback. And so you have to email me, pedro@slmedia.org. Let me know if you would like to add anything to the format of the show. And to listen to all the episodes of the Salt and Light Hour, visit our website, slmedia.org. There's lots of content there, videos, all our TV shows and documentaries, and our blog. That's also where you can find out everything you want about Salt and Light Media and how you can support this ministry, because we cannot bring you this program for free without your donations. That's slmedia.org. And remember that you can subscribe to the Salt and Light Hour wherever you get your podcasts, and also listen to us on your Amazon Echo, Alexa, or Google device. Just ask for the Salt and Light Hour Catholic Podcast. Thank you for being with us today. I'm Deacon Pedro.